Good afternoon, everyone. BC Richfield here, coming to you live from London. It's just gone 1 minute past midday here, making it 1 minute past 1100 UTC. A big shout out to everybody joining the stream live today, as well as everybody that is watching on recording. How are we doing, everyone? Our Alt Request Wednesday is here. Feeling good, feeling pumped, got some good charts to check. We got a buzzing, vibrant community at the moment over at TVN. And please do remember, I'm sure you can find this in the description at the moment, you can join us for absolutely nothing. All right. We've opened up the Discord. A lot of people got caught the wrong side of this recent correction, and we just want to give something back. So there's no catch. You can join up. The key thing is it was open for 60 days, I think, from last week, maybe. So we will be closing that off pretty soon, just because we have obviously taken in a lot of people just to make sure we can service everybody properly. So please do take a check in the description if you want to come and join us for free. There's no catch. Okay, guys, just please feel free to do it. Other awesome things you can find down in the description as well, like exchange links, bits and pieces like that, where you can grab yourself some deals. So please do feel free or reach out if you have any questions. So with that out of the way, what are we doing today? Well, big focus obviously is alts. Now, I know people are kind of still a little bit concerned about current market conditions. So I think we just want to kind of strip away the noise and then get ourselves to a position where we're just looking at this from a technical standpoint. Sometimes these big news catalysts, can't be expected, right? So we have to deal with what we've got in front of us. So I have got the Ethereum chart up, and I want to share what I'm thinking about this time around. But what I'd love to hear is from all of you guys, and find out what it is that you want to take a look at. We can chart absolutely anything that you want. Jackie, welcome. Erica, everybody else filling up in the chats as well. We've got a few thousand people tuning in across Twitter, Instagram, obviously through YouTube as well. So a huge welcome. Now, Erica, you always have some good suggestions for some charts, so I'm relying on you to come up with a few to kick us off. And also Jackie as well, if there's anything that you want to see. Obviously, we're going to be focused a little bit more on the higher time frames here, looking at where we can get involved in some positions. For anybody that are current members of the Nest, or anybody that wants to sign up before in the next kind of hour and 15 minutes, then you'd be welcome to join us over there for the live trading session as well, where we'll be scalping some intraday charts with a focus today on cryptocurrency. So without further ado, Ave, you absolute beauty. Okay, perfect. Ave, love that. Probably take a little look at Algo, just because Chris, our FA guy, absolutely loves that. Craigie boy, how you doing, man? You got some suggestions for us? Please do fire them in. Now, just to give us a kind of a larger view, a couple of things I'm going to do, right? So just want to take a very quick look with you guys based on monthly candles, all right? So I just think what was quite interesting was this actually here. Let's make sure we've got rid of all of this. Just old data. Let's just save this in a little group so we can get it out of the way, just in case we ever need it. Remember, the old data can really be your friend. So make sure you've either got it journaled or saved somewhere that you can use it for. So obviously, look, I know we're into the month now already, and last month, actually for me, I thought last month could be a little bit of a bullish catalyst here, not going to lie. But I did want to see this low taken out, which we didn't quite do. We've now come down, obviously had quite an aggressive purge out below this. But one thing I would say here, right, is, and the reason that I was a little bit bullish on this is because we've taken liquidity from May's low here. If we just zoom in, as you can see, taken liquidity from down there. Craigie boy, yeah, near. We can definitely do that. And then you normally see some kind of decent reaction here, right? These are really kind of key swing points. So price came into here. We saw that beautiful price action get bought all the way up, because what happened here? Price opened, went a little bit higher, as we often see in down weeks, down months, down days, etc. Price normally draws to the opposite side first, inducing longs before the sell-off. Then it got bought up quite aggressively here, and then we came into the close, opening up this month. Now, this is a pin bar candle, or some will know it as a hammer candle, with a kind of, I would say, short-ish nose, right, which is the wick that's sticking out there. Your very best pin bar candles, you want to find them trading with you with the trend, so uptrend here. You can see our nice pin bar candle here. We had another one here as well, to give you an example. So what does this all mean? Well, quite simply, I'm always looking for price to be seeking liquidity, right? So whether that be liquidity resting above old highs. Oh, of course you can't draw with those things, can you, on here? So something like this, old highs or below old lows, right? Think about it as the real core concept of what you're taught when you first come into this industry, wet behind the ears and naive as we all are when we come into it, that, you put your stop losses above swing highs if you're shorting or below swing lows if you're longing, right? And they provide pre-made liquidity pools for people to target. Now, one thing that's really not, and again, we've got 17 days and 13 hours left in this month, all right? So let's not kind of get carried away here, but this gap that we can see continues to support price. Yeah. Yes, we had this big sell-off, but I tell you what, there's a hell of a reaction there. It's over 50% of that candle's kind of retraced now. Does it mean that we're not going to see more downside? Absolutely not. We absolutely could. But on a monthly scale, as long as we continue to hold this area here and think of this box as green to show that it's bullish, right? It's support. This can wick all the way down to here. As long as we hold this area, then there would really be an expectation for price to kind of move a little bit higher. Because what we're saying to ourselves is if price is taking liquidity up here, it's come back down here to rebalance this gap. Efficient market. Now we can move up. Close below this, however, and then we have this gap down here to contend with, but also these untapped swing lows. Craigie boy, hope you're doing well. Watch yesterday's session on the train home from London. You legend. My stomping ground. That has been hot the last few days, mate. I do not envy you being on those trains. Right, so now we're going to drop down to a weekly, right? And look, we've got this whole area here. I don't want this to be distracting for you because it requires a weekly close, right? A monthly close, sorry, which we're still 17 days away from. But it's just to signify that we've got that kind of support in here. Now, we're facing a similar situation here with this weekly gap, all right? Now, what's happened? Price has come down, taken liquidity below these lows. Yeah, equal lows, that low, that low, that low, and that low. Well, no, that one actually, because that one has been swept there. So that one and that one make these equal lows, right? Or relative equal lows. You're looking for a place whereby they're very, very close by. And these provide key liquidity pools. The next thing that makes this a super liquidity pool is the fact that it's within a bullish gap. So sticking with our regular theory here, and we can see also that as well as clearing out those lows here, price has taken out those as well. Price has come back up, holding this area. So what's my key draw on liquidity? Well, the draw on liquidity is higher because the expectation is for price to be drawing back towards this gap. Okay. So when price comes and takes some form of external liquidity, which is a high or a low, as we can see in this case here, the expectation then is that it's looking to rebalance a gap, an inefficiency in the market. And this is bullish. Price comes into here. We look for how price reacts here. We typically, or I certainly look towards the equilibrium. All right, to see how price is behaving within that, to see if it's holding this area, which we can see here. Obviously, this big sell-off immediately then inverted this gap. And that just means that basically we're then in a position to say, okay, we now expect lower prices. We look to this for support. If support fails, we look for a retest and we look for price to sell off. So, and where to? Well, the liquidity resting below old lows that we saw here, all right? So now we find ourselves in a similar situation. And by the way, when we close below these, so when these bullish gaps fail to offer support, then they become inverted. Once we close below them, we then expect this area to offer resistance. And then what happened in here? Well, quite simply, price swept this high, took the liquidity, found the rejection, and now it's taken out liquidity below these lows and also below this low. So the expectation now is that it's drawing back to rebalance this gap. So price has come down here. We're now looking for price to come here. And typically, from a bearish gap, we should expect bearish continuation. However, if we obviously get price come up and close above here, we get a reverse of what we just discussed up here. Price coming down. If we close above here, then the expectation is for price to seek liquidity above this high. Okay. But until that, still expecting price to kind of draw its way up here. If we want to look at a way that we can be a bit more accurate with that, well, we can measure the low to the high of this. And then just look at this kind of 50% level. Price often likes to kind of retrace up into this area. So this is what we're looking to be the draw on liquidity at the moment. So while we kind of play those factors in, we now move down to the daily chart. Hey, Seb, how you doing, mate? And now we're kind of drawing up to this area here, right? So again, we're just going to overlay the same principles. This big box here, the big green box, just tells us that we're being supported down there and that we've taken liquidity. So now if we overlay those same principles, we're going to keep the red box there because we know that's where we're drawing towards. But this is kind of the first sign of a nice recovery here. Again, look, bearish gap, right? So what's our expectation? Same thing again. Price comes down, takes external liquidity below this low, looks for internal liquidity in form of a gap, and then we expect a rejection. However, if we don't get that rejection, and price comes above, then we expect this to be a support and resistance flip and for price to move higher. Now, we need to respect the fact that we have this larger high time frame gap above us, and we also need to respect the fact that we've got these gaps down here on a daily scale. So at the moment, while we're in this area, we have to pay attention. We have to say to ourselves, okay, well, look, price is coming up. We're delivering from a bearish gap here. But what's interesting here as well is this, right? This for me at the moment is the level that's capping the market. We've got this high here, resistance, resistance. Now we're looking to get a daily close above this. The other thing is as well, we've got this swing high here that we've just taken out. And it's natural for price to pull back after doing this, right? People have stops above there, people getting stopped out, etc. So watching and seeing a nice strong daily close above this would give me the confidence to say, okay, I think price is actually moving higher towards these highs over here, all right? Hey, Just Pit, my man. Guys and girls, I don't know if you can share your trading handle for us on Twitter for us, Just Pit. Just Pit is one of our longtime friends of the Nest and is just an exceptionally talented swing trader. He's been sharing trades with us now for the best part of a week or so and has just been absolutely crushing it. I mean, I'm just looking at his trade calls now. I have the pleasure of being in charge of this magnificent trading team we have over at TBN. And look, Solana called on the 7th. TP1 and TP2 hit 14.5% profit for members. All TPs hit and 17% profit on INJ. TIA 9.2% profit, 5.5 on BNB. Manta, Link. I mean, I could just go on and on. He's been crushing it. And even I'm learning some stuff from swing trading from this guy. So make sure you give him a follow if you can share your trading handle there, Just Pit. And obviously come and enjoy his calls for free over at the Nest. You get access to all of them. Imagine the dollar that you're leaving on the side by not doing it. Right, SUI, we absolutely can. And Atom, yeah, lovely. Obviously, I'm going through a few more of the kind of principles of how I'm trading here, guys, right? When we get through to the rest of the assets, we're just going to crush our way through them, okay? So, looking at this, we can see that we've got a plan here, right? We're holding this gap and we've got this inversion, yeah? So now we've got this, right? We've treated this area as support. So there's an old saying really, sometimes you don't want to kind of overthink things too much. You just lay out the levels and say, okay, where am I looking to be a buyer? Where am I looking to be a seller? We kind of recovered market structure here as well. We've gone from the higher low, higher low, kind of building this up slowly but surely. Yes, we want to be cautious in this area here, but like it says, sometimes you just got to put your foot down when you've got your levels. Hey, my man, how we doing? Good afternoon. Yeah, Doge for you, brother. No problem whatsoever. Uluwazi Milogo, Benson. Was that a better attempt this week? I determined to at least try and get that a lot better than I murdered it the other day. But absolutely, mate, we will take a look at Doge for you. So I'm going to get rid of this because we don't want it to be a distraction. We've got that kind of plan in our head. Now I'm going to move to the 4 hour and say, okay, we just turn the session breaks off. For anybody interested, you can just get to these through your events and then session breaks. See the lines? Just outlines the day dividers. Can really help you from a liquidity perspective, noticing how price kind of typically fluxes from these key liquidity levels. Prior days high, prior days low, prior weeks high, prior weeks low, for example. Now, as we look at this down here, we can see how price has come up, held this level. What I do like about this from a bullish perspective is looking at how we've taken this sweep here. Right, we know we've got this area offering us support, so we're saying, okay, no problem. Maybe we see a little bit more upside here. Then we see price swing down here. Now, this is a brilliant move because typically you see these in the market where price is looking to raid liquidity from one side before heading to the other. I'm always looking for confidence when I trade, and what I'm saying to myself here is, okay, a lot of people can be trapped offside on this move. Remember what I said before? If we start inverting these, then I'm looking for lower. But while we hold them, look, bullish gap, swing low, tons of liquidity down here for people to buy up. People will dive into this too late. Yeah, it's typical. People start to get short here and here, right? Then what happens? Price comes out, takes out liquidity from people that were long, and then attacks the liquidity all the way up to these highs for people that were short. Okay, it's just a brilliant flux in the market. We see it all over the place. Highs being taken out, this one from there to there, for example, this low here and this low, leading to the liquidity generated that then made price go higher. We then see that higher cause a slight rejection in price before it then gets bought up to move higher. All right, so while we're in a bullish state of delivery, I'm looking for bullish price action, right? So again, I want to note the level that's capping the market currently. I want to look at the last place price has delivered from, which for me is this gap. Price came up, right? Came back down. So we set this bullish gap here. We saw this nice bullish reaction, and now price is moving higher. So for me, I've got a really, really simple play here now. I can understand that if we close below this low, then I target this low first and then these lows afterwards, right? The market's showing weakness, maybe it needs to refuel a little bit lower. However, as long as we're here and we're holding these levels, especially considering we've now closed above this, making it an order block, yeah, down closed candles, price is now closed above it. So as long as we hold this area and this gap, I think this is a good opportunity to look for long setups higher, all right? And that's how I'm looking at it. So I'm now just going to focus mainly on the daily and the 4 hour for the other charts, and we're going to really just start ripping through some, all right? If you do have any questions, please let me know. The chat is open. Just be respectful of one another. If you're a twat, I'll kick you out. It's as simple as that. If you're not, please feel free to ask questions. We've got a fantastic community here, a very knowledgeable one as well, who I'm sure are very happy to help. Seb raises a good point up here as well. You know, I trade indices as well, things like the S&P 500, the NASDAQ. These news results and red folder news does have an effect on the market. Okay, so just before we go on, I think this might be something of interest to people. Let me grab this up and share it across with you. Obviously, when I go back to the charts and forget to change it, I'm sure one of you will remind me, which I do have a habit of doing. All right. But this is our red folder news. You can find this out on forexfactory.com or Baby Pips, something like that. And what our friend Seb here is mentioning is that we have a CPI print. Now, we're focused on the US markets here, unless you're really like a Forex trader, of course. Now, what we can see is yesterday we had PPI. Yeah. And I'll just show you quickly in a moment what that does to the markets. So we had PPI, core PPI. Now, the prints came in under. Yeah, and we look at what it was forecast at 0.2%. We can see we came in under that, and then you can see how that catalyst hits the market. All right, so that's what we're going to look at, and a low print for that is basically talking about it being low inflation effect on products. Okay, so it means it's good for the market. It means that the market's not feeling that stress as much. Therefore, it's positive. Now today at 1:30, so in an hour and 10 minutes, we have core CPI, consumer price index. This is how much the average person is feeling the squeeze, right? How much the cost of goods are going up, how much we're being affected by inflation and our particularly pathetic and incompetent governments, especially in the West. So always worth keeping an eye on this, right? Now, just to throw some context your way, that was at 1:30 p.m. London time, 12:30 UTC. So let me show you here. Now we've covered ETH quickly before we go on to our other alts. Let me show you something here on the NASDAQ. Actually, we'll go on the main contract. Okay, so now if we go to yesterday, so you can see this through here, Tuesday, 13:30. Look at that candle here. See this big old beast of a candle? Now, quite often, and this actually maybe isn't the best example, but quite often what you get with these kind of moves is you get a move to the offside first to induce people in the wrong direction, and then you get this big pump, right? But for people that think that, these news, that news doesn't have this big catalyst, you really want to watch these red folder events, okay? So if we look at that there, and then if we go to Bitcoin, just for example, now what we're going to do is we're going to look for the correlation, across the pairs, right? So if we look at this here, Tuesday, to forgive all that, just some trades that we're doing with Trade Club, hide those. Yeah. What happens here? The catalyst is the same thing. Look how price, and this is a little bit of a better example, but look at the wicks on this candle. Yeah, so this candle right here. This is when the news drops. What happens? Price comes down, takes out over leveraged players to the downside, taking out liquidity below this low, and then you have that immediate recovery where price shoots up, then it settles, absorbs the news, and then look how that just provided and aided to that really beautiful bullish catalyst that we saw yesterday. Really good question. So if I'm trading GBP pairs, then I'm all over the UK news. I don't think the UK news really moves the dial massively unless there's a really big report. European news probably moved more in that respect, normally around interest rate, whether they're going to hike, cut, etc. Like at the moment, there's big chat that the US are going to look to cut, by 0.5. If they do, I think that would just be this huge fire they'll light under the market. The market will move massively towards a risk on sentiment, meaning that it's normally very, very good for cryptocurrency. Yeah, so we want to see that 50 basis points hike. But again, it can be one of those things where you can get these moves to the offside before the market really settles. Okay, but really good heads up there from our friend Seb. And you can just get that information for free, right? Just looking at the Forex news, because I know a lot of people who have been in really good crypto positions, not factored in the news before, have seen one of these big volatile moves that comes and kind of takes and has this big effect on the market. And we've seen that especially with the kind of unemployment change results recently too. So anyway, that aside, let's start cracking through some charts, shall we? So we are going to start with Aave. Okay, let's go with our strategic partners over at Binance, shall we? And let's get ourselves on these higher time frames. Okay, so Aave, sneaky one. Yeah, I remember actually covering this recently, right? So what we were looking at here was this. It was all about this gap, right? Now you see this, you can see this a little bit more in crypto than you do in traditional markets typically, but that was the low that we were looking for price to come down into. Why was that? Well, quite simply, when we inverted this gap, remember, as I was kind of just discussing with you there, and we're going to look at this one that we did here as well. We inverted this gap, closed below it here. That's the next resting liquidity, right? So that was the target. And then look at this beautiful long downside wick, yeah? So SC taught me this, or really kind of hammered it home to me anyway. It's all about the bodies, right? The wicks are where price tried to get to but failed. So price tried to come all the way down here and buyers were like, nope. That all got bought up, meaning people saw this as value here. That then followed by an engulfing candle gave me encouragement that this could be looking to switch trend. Now, where the sneak of it came in is we got this close above it here, right? So remember, this was a bearish gap here. When price came into it, we were looking for rejection here. This bullish engulfing candle that closed above was a real sign of hope. Now, the one thing that I will say, and it's always difficult when you add nuance into trading, right? But what I really didn't like about this was that upside wick. Hardly any downside wick, big body expansion up into here. Not a great wick there, showing that actually there's a lot of pressure coming back onto it from here. Okay, so you want to approach that with caution. My good friend Bast, one of our awesome traders over at TBN as well, would always say to me, look, you always want to wait for these secondary candles. You see something like an engulfing candle, wait to see what that second candle does before you start jumping in, right? Because this could be a trap. Now, let's look at the difference between the two inversions here and tell you why I had so much confidence in this one. Look at this. Look at the body. It's almost all body. Think of it like a weight. If you're dropping a weight down to fall down to here, then you want to see all of that weight at the bottom and you want to see a long wick to the top. Almost think of it as something that's in motion. This is how quickly it's moving down. That's it. Price comes down, draws up. Like we say, price often catches people offside, then has this big aggressive drop. All right. Now, the reason that I wasn't quite as confident with this one was because it did the opposite. You almost want these to be like an air balloon. Yeah. So you want to have a nice big body at the top. And then you want a nice, not in the middle, is it? But you want a nice wick to the downside, right? So think of it like a balloon. Yeah, that's what you want to see. And we make it nice and bright green, so it really shows our up only approach. Yeah. Hey, Simon. Afternoon, mate. It is. Things are tasting a little bullish, which we like. But look, that's the kind of candle that you want to see here. Yeah. What you get here is just this indecision of price kind of going up. And look how it looks just a bit weighty. Looks like it's going to try to get up there, and kind of drop right back down. So that's where we can be cautious. However, at the end of the day, when it closed above here, it certainly caught my attention. But as it immediately closed back below, it violates this and tells me that, similar to range trading, right? And I give this example a lot, and I really must get the legend on the stream soon, right? But my really dear friend Trader Dank, who's one of the best traders you can imagine, old school, student of SC, very, very similar to myself, just a wonderful human being if you don't follow him. But let's look at a range here, shall we? I'm sure I've got a... There we go. Right, so we've got our range here. So what are we looking for? Well, price typically, when it sets a range, you normally get something like this. You get really big expansion, right? And then it's quite a good way to do it is to see these big expansions, then take the immediate low or high, and then look for how it interacts with the midline. And you're looking for price to kind of conquer the midline here, and then it kind of moves up. Now, with a breakout, you want to see this held and then price take out this high that it makes, yeah? So if price fails to do that and gets back in the range, well, then it's a sign of weakness. We then see how price reacts at the midline. If we lose the midline, then we expect range low, all right? So on and so forth. Now, the key thing about this is that we get the deviation here, price steps back inside. Now it's showing weakness, right? So if price was strong here, we'd be making a note of, do it with this actually, we'd be making a note of this high here and saying, well, you want price to get over that to move up, right? Just simple, because if the buyers are really strong in here, then why has it come back in the range? Yeah, if it's broken out of this, you want to use this as a base and a launch pad to move higher. Price coming back down into here is a sign of weakness. And that's exactly like we're talking about, right? When we look at this inversion, right? Let me just draw that back in for you. And we're saying, okay, well, look, if price is really breaking out of this, if it's gone from offering resistance, now we expect it to offer support, then it shouldn't be closing back beneath it. So when it does close back beneath it, then you're looking for lower targets, all right? Are you sure, Craig? Because we can slide it in right now, mate. If not, I'm still going to cover it anyway, mate. And then hopefully you get to watch this on catch up. I think it's about 27 minutes in. All right. So if you get the chance, and obviously if you've got any questions, buddy, just reach out to me in the nest and we'll cover them for you. All right. So now price is heading lower. Now, one thing that's quite interesting here is we have a pretty aggressive downside target here, right, on Arve, because, if we're looking at this purely from a daily perspective of liquidity, then that's a little bit low. However, we just want to see what price does here. And in truth, if we're looking at it from a market structure perspective, then what we really want to see, what the bulls really want to see, is price back above this. But the first indication that we can have that price is really stepping in bullish on a daily scale is a daily close above this. That would make this an order block, yeah? And then you're looking for price to close above this, and then you can start saying with some conviction that price is probably looking to head for that. Kind of looking, especially more for anybody on an intraday front. Now, what we got here is, let's have a quick look. Oh, interestingly, we didn't have any inefficiencies really in this move down, right? That means there's no gaps there. We simply swept liquidity below that low and had a really nice, strong reaction. Quite often when you're looking at these, yeah, so a couple of things that we've got here, which is we've got the breaker block here. All right, so what does this mean? Well, they're the up candles before price purged liquidity from below this low. Then we had this strong move. Once we close above this here, we're then looking for this area to hold, right? And again, you can just add your Fibonacci's onto this as well and say, okay, how are we kind of reacting here at the midline? And now some people with breaker blocks as well will make an allowance for the whole candle. That's absolutely fine. Personally, for a bullish breaker block, I like to take it from the top of the bodies down to the bottom of the wick, unless it's a super abnormally long wick. and the opposite, obviously, for bearish. But we can see now how where the buyers were in here, people get caught offside, price recovers here, and then uses this area as support. So this was a really, really good move. Now, the next thing that I'm looking for here is we see price really kind of starting to expand now towards this. That's our bullish order blocks for a daily. So we're going to get rid of that for a minute. We're adding in our liquidity targets here. Now, price is kind of engaged with this high, so we want to be aware of that. And our next target above that is this high. The other thing I really like is that we've got all these beautiful untapped highs here, yeah, offering liquidity to the upside. So you can see price is hungry to take that out. So how can we manage that? Well, looking at MARIOS, no problem, my friend. Well, I tell you what, let me very quickly tag one of our technical team for you right now. Did you get the link from the Discord description, my friend, or from the YouTube description? Let me know in the chat and I'll make sure that you have got the most up-to-date link. Technology not always our friends, is it? I know it certainly makes a mockery of me on more than one occasion. So how do we want to manage this? Because that's all well and good, right? Which is fine. We love that. Great. Okay, BC, that's wonderful. YouTube. All right, no problem. Thank you, my friend. Let me get a new one on there for you ASAP. And if not, please just ping me a comment after this in Twitter and I'll make sure it will be there. Actually, technical team have been and got back to us here. They're getting in there right now to make sure that link's updated for you. So as we are here, let's just look at our order blocks. Yeah, that's kind of been a key theme for us here, right? So remember, you want to see your down close candles supporting price. Yeah. So when we close above it here, we confirm this order block. You want to see this area hold. You remain bullish while it does. Then what do? We then set 2 more down close candles here, right? So we're now looking for those to hold, which it's done. Yeah. Just draw that back a bit. So order block supports price, sends price higher. Price takes liquidity from this high. Yeah. Draw that in. We took liquidity from this high here. Then what happened? Price returned to our order block, found support, moved higher. What then happened next? Price took liquidity from this high here. What happened? Confirmed this order block when it did so and closed above. Yeah. Then moved down. Okay, so what's happening now? Well, quite simply, price has confirmed this order block here as well. So beautiful. We see that price closes above, comes back down. Now we have got this one here as well, but it's very, very close to this larger one. So this is the kind of area I'm looking to hold. And again, I just bullish until this thing breaks. Yeah. Sometimes that's the best thing. Just don't try and overthink these things. Look, just make sure that you've got an understanding of what your system is, whether you're using your daily as the higher time frame, whether you're using your weekly, etc. And thank you so much, Mr. QBS, you absolute legend. So for anybody that wants it, that should be updated there, and it's also in the chat here. Again, if you've got any problems at all, please do just reach out. You can just drop me a comment on one of my posts on Twitter, or come and fire us a comment over here, or even leave one on YouTube, and we'll make sure you guys are taken care of. So that's it, right? Now, you just want to make sure you understand what your higher time frame is. So if you're using a 4-hour like I am to gauge my daily bias, and I'm saying to myself, okay, so on a 4-hour, if I'm bullish, then what am I doing? Well, then I'm moving to a 15-minute, right? And then I'm saying to myself, I'm using these levels of indication here to say, okay, well, what do I want to see to be long? So as I step into the charts this morning at the London session at 7 o'clock, I'm looking at developments. This is Asia's range here. We're looking at this to see how price reacts. But if I'm bullish, you can use really, really simple things like even looking at market structure and or looking at our order blocks like we did before. So London kicks in here. What do we got? We've got a 15-minute order block. We're delivering from a 4-hour order block. And lo and behold, we've also delivered from a bullish gap. Yeah. So no reason to be bearish here, right? No reason to be bearish here at all. We then hold this, we set this order block so we can look to be buyers in here. Yeah. And however that looks to you, you can drop down to a lower time frame chart. You can say, okay, well, what do I want to see? You know, look a little bit gappier on here, obviously, because we're on a spot rather than a futures chart, right? But quite simply, you can just take something like this, right? You can look where you're looking for your sweeps. I like to see inducement. I love to see inducement below lows in this perspective. And then you can do something super simple, like say to yourself, all right, well, where's the high that swept this low. That will be our breaker line. What do you want to do when price closes above it, as you see here, yeah, or here with a strong close above? I can then set a limit order on here, wait for price to return. I simply put my stop loss below the previous low. And where are my targets? Well, remember we laid this out earlier from our higher time frame, so we know price, on a higher time frame is likely to make a move for there. And then from there, ultimately, we hold for our higher targets as well, but we can kind of mitigate our risk by moving our stops in and around here. All right, just to give you guys a little bit of insight to some of the stuff that we cover at the Nest and some of the techniques that we teach. So obviously, I don't want to get stuck too much on the minutiae. Hopefully, that's nice and clear there on Aave. At the moment, I'm feeling bullish on it. We do need to recover market structure on a daily basis, but ultimately, I think this is looking good for a pump at the moment. So Aave done. Now we're going to look at Algo, just so that I can say to Chris later on, bless him, that we've taken a look at his absolute favorite. So Chris is our FA guy. Now, this is quite an interesting looking chart here, actually, because I really like the look of this downside wick over here. Actually going to just zoom out a little bit more to a weekly and see, yeah, okay, this looks nice and clean here, actually. Just had a nice reaction of this bullish gap. Nice candle, a little bit of indecision. The price kind of come up here, down, up. Took a little bit of a sell-off, but in terms of what's drawing price, I think this weekly gap is drawing price higher. Yes, it's a bearish gap. Yeah, so we want to be aware of that when we get there. But I think this is where price is coming to ultimately make its decision. So if that's the case, what do we want to see? Well, I think we've kind of seen the start of it here. We've got this large bodied singular down close candle that's just been closed above. So in line with what we were looking at before with our order blocks, well, that looks pretty good at the moment. Price is closing above here. We've got a nice pin bar candle again. Remember, we were saying we like those. Just make that a bit skinnier. So then looking at this really for a target at the moment, and then for price to draw higher up into this gap. Now, we haven't recovered market structure here on the daily either, so we need to be aware of that. However, I like what we're seeing from a bullish perspective. Now here on a 4 hour, I like it even more because now I've got a complete plan, right? So I think price is heading for this red box via this high. Yeah. So what do I need to get involved in this? Well, I want to see price respecting bullish gaps. Yeah. And holding bullish market structure. So quite simply, high, higher low, higher high, hopefully higher low. And now we push up. So this is where I'm looking to be a buyer. And very, very simply, I will look to be a seller if we close below it. Okay, so that's where I am on Algo. So things looking good in the short term for Chris and for all those Algo people out there. Wonderful community, by the way, super vibrant. So hopefully that gives those guys something to shout about. By the way, I know I clear this up a lot, but I would hate to be deemed sexist. So when I say guys, I do mean men and women, whether that's technically correct or not. I don't want all the awesome ladies out there and some of the best traders as well to feel left out. So near, let's take a look at near. What have we been looking at here? Oh, okay, nice. So this is good. So we've actually got some old TA to go on here, and actually you can see how I kind of broken this into like the key pivot points. These are levels that I'm looking for on a higher time frame where we've seen historical significance in levels that are flipped support and resistance, right? Quite simply, look, support, breaks below, retest, resistance, strong close above, test this as support. Again, moves up to here, support, 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 deviation, price closes below. So now we're saying, okay, we expect price to search out liquidity lower down, which we absolutely get here, right? So now we've taken that liquidity, remember, in line with our thinking, I know a lot of alts are going to look similar, price is drawing back to this gap, okay? That's what we're looking at. Over here, we can see exactly as we saw on the Aave chart, how we got this really sneaky close above here. And I liked this one a lot more than Aave, right? Because when we closed above it here, yeah, and actually we did the TA on this so long ago that we were actually still within this, right? So when we did this, this was the key thing here. I was like, right, want to be looking for longs here. That ultimately failed. We closed back below it, invalidating it. So then we're targeting these lows down here. All right, now we've taken them. I'm looking to target this, but it does look like there's a little bit of overhead congestion here, especially with our key kind of pivot point. So ultimately, you know, at this perspective, until we see change on the weekly chart, this is looking most likely. Jackie, BC Scarify, you look for sells when price closes below the FEG. Is that correct? Yeah, absolutely. I will show you some examples of that as well, right? So looking at this here, let's clear this up. Right, we can see the last time we looked at this, we had this bullish gap. So the idea was that the gap here would hold, yeah, and would lead us to higher prices. We also had this nice support and resistance flip of this level here, which was capping the market, resistance, big sell-off, strong close above. The expectation as price drew back down to here was for price to hold and move higher. Once again, if we make an allowance for our equilibrium here, and let me zoom in, we can see price closed below the equilibrium there with a pretty nasty looking pin bar candle, which gave us an indication that we might be seeing more downside. When we closed below it here, inverting it, it's then telling me that the area the buyers should be, there's not enough buyers there, right? So where is price then likely to head? Well, the next key liquidity pool, which is this low and this low here. Yes, we have some kind of skinny gaps through here, but I'm really looking for the kind of clear and obvious ones. So when we close below, we did get that sell-off. We did close below this level here. And we can see on this level here as well, these key pivot points offering support and resistance. So when you see these big body closes below it, then there's an expectation that price is actually looking to seek out liquidity lower down. Now we kind of face what we see with a lot of alt charts, and I appreciate a lot of these will look the same, is we've got that inversion here on a daily scale to the upside, right? These are often the key kind of points whereby we see price kind of come up. And yeah, Jackie, it works on all of them as well, right? So I would look at them, I'll show you in a minute, look at them as low as the 1, 2, 3, 5 minute as well for those. But I want to make sure I'm framing my trades, right? So just hopefully something you guys will consider valuable, right? And a little bit of a, an insight into how I trade. But when we get this inversion here, I'm looking at this area for support, right? I know this big red box is drawing price higher, so I'm going to get rid of that for the moment. Just explain that from here, I'm looking for higher prices. I'm looking for this to hold and move up. So what does that mean? Well, if I just employ the inversion principles here, let's look what that does. So from a daily, I just want to move to my 4 hour, which is my framing, yeah? So then I'm saying from here, oh, okay, well, what do I want to see? Well, you want to see the initiation, the start of price, yeah? Disrespecting these bearish gaps. Yes, we've got another one above us here, but that's fine because look, we've violated that initial one and we've seen a rejection here. So then all we need to do is take a peep in here to see if we get any setups, right? And you know the setups exactly as I just shared with you, right? What we're looking for is when price comes into these areas, right? So look at yesterday's trading. What do we want to see? Well, if you're a higher time frame trader, you want to see the same kind of things. You want to see a sweep of some lows like we got here to show you that price is inducing. And then you say, okay, well, where's the high that took that low? Well, it's here. Yeah, even if you allowed for this one just above it. But for me, because that's a down move, that's an up move. This is the last swing high that led to this manipulation move lower. So that's where I want to be a buyer. Just don't overcomplicate it for yourselves, right? Like you said, price closes above it here. You set your limit order on there, right? You can put your stop loss below the swing low here. Your initial first target, I would say for a 1-to-1 is here. You can then look to mitigate risk and move your stops up, and then you can move higher. And one of the real kind of secret sources to this really is just looking to make sure you're not kind of costing yourself profit. So make your targets on the higher time frames, right? Where you see these key liquidity pools. Now, for me, this is a key pivot point here, all right? Because look, strong sellers there. Now we've had this big expansion above it. I want to see this level hold. All right, that's going to be really key for me here. And looking at that, what backs that up further is this nice bullish gap here. Yeah. So at the moment, really nice, clear and simple plan. As long as we continue to hold this, I think we move up. But moving to your point as well, Jackie, if we close below this here, yeah, I'd be a little bit cautious of this little gap here. Yeah. But ultimately, if price closes below here, I think we're searching out liquidity below these lows. And actually, are they equal lows? Yeah, I must admit that looks very tempting down there being equal lows. So if we get the close below this here, I'm chasing down those equal lows. As long as we hold this, then I'm looking for these higher prices. All right. So near, there we go. Kelsey, hello, bud. Welcome to the show. Great to have you with us. What did we go for? What were we doing SUI on yesterday? I think we were intraday trading this, actually. I think we were doing it with our partners over at Buyabit. So, bigger view now. This thing is running hot. Actually, our dear friend and fellow Bird Nest team member Marcin was the one that, you know him as Edge Runner, was the one that led me onto this. So we can see in here again, look, this was the first idea that price was getting ready to move. Right? I'll tell you for why. Let's just look at this down move here. When we get these gaps, bearish gap, right? Respect it. Doesn't close above. So while you're in it, trade it down. If you close above it, chase it higher. What do we have here? Bearish gap, right? So when you're in it, especially if you get a strong move like that above the 50%, yeah, look how you'll see this area almost act as like a support and resistance flip. Yeah. Beautiful, isn't it? Strong close above, support, up we go. So when you see that, now when you close above it, so all you say to yourself is, right, we violated that now, and you actually close above this secondary smaller one here as well, then you're just looking for your liquidity targets higher, okay? Broken record, I know, but we do the same thing here on the way down. Yeah, violate that gap. Just think of resistance turn support or support turn resistance. So this was our first indication here that price was looking for a rip. And this is looking healthy at the moment. This is maybe a little overextended. This was a particularly big move to the upside. So there's two areas I'd be targeting if I wanted to be long on this right now, which is here. It's our bullish gap down here. And then also this order block. Now, this is a very, very skinny order block. All right. So I'm always a little bit cautious, and actually just looking across the line here, look how good this level is as a pivot point. Wow. Beautiful. When you see these abnormal wicks, look, support, 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 close below, retest, broken record time. What are we doing? Delivering perfectly from a bearish gap here. Price sells off to liquidity down here. And again, big, strong move below it. And now, for the first time, look, support, support, deviation, price gets back above and under and over, ultimately sells off. Resistance, 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 closed above it. Now we're holding this extra line in the sand, looking at the skinny order block here as well. All right, that looks so clean on a daily. I absolutely love it. So then on a 4 hour, if we want to move this, or if we're saying, okay, well, maybe price is looking to move lower. And often, you know, what causes massive damage in the market is price moving down to rebalance a very natural bullish gap like this. People get super bearish, start to sell everything, and then just create this mass liquidity pool. Imran, my friend, thank you very much, brother. Yeah, please do hit the likes if you're enjoying the content, guys, and really do welcome any feedback you've got for the show. If there's things you'd like to see more of, things you'd like to see less of, please do let me know. Now, this is really interesting. We can see our price is just grinding down into this and using our order block theory again, right? What do we want to do? If we're bearish, we want to see the up close candles defending price on the way down, and that's what we've got, right? Defending it incredibly well. So we now want to see just a sign that price is looking to violate those, and we really want to see something like this, yeah? Like, just get rid of that for a moment. If we close below this with this 4 hour candle in 10 minutes, then I think we're heading lower, targeting this low, right? But as it stands, what I'd really like to see is price just nip back in, just hold this, yeah? Hold that gap, and then turn this into a breaker. Yeah, because if price holds that gap, closes above this, this becomes our bullish breaker, and then I think we're back for some up only. If not, we've got our targets, right? If we close below the 4 hour, then we're looking at that, which is at 0.8585. And if not, then a move down to rebalance these inefficiencies a little bit lower. So that is SUI. Then Atom and Doge. And then I'm going to try and smash a quick sandwich down my face and see if, before we jump onto the live trading chart. So a key kind of SI level here, I just, you know, these abnormal wicks, when you see them, they just often play such a big part here. So got a key kind of look on here, which is a, you know, monthly and a weekly level as well. Price kind of coming down. It's kind of stuck around here at the moment. So looking at it on a daily basis, we've taken liquidity from the lows here. We've kind of had this initial reaction. We don't really have, on a daily scale here, there's no real gaps until we get to this kind of skinnier one up here. So looking at that to potentially be the draw here. But I have to say Atom looks a bit heavy here. I would have expected a little bit more from it. Once again, you always want to be a little bit cautious of the skinnier candles for order blocks, right? But, you know, price kind of moves up from here, holds this, gets back down below it pretty quickly. Now I would say actually you're kind of looking at that being your resistance here actually with Atom. So you want to see this low swept, right? Or you want to see this low swept. or either of these lows here really on a lower time frame to be a catalyst for price to get back above. So let's look at the 4 hour really to kind of see what we're dealing with here. Get rid of that from, well, that's kind of our resistance level, right? So that's where we expect price to draw back, but it has retested this order block and kind of sold off. Now price has taken liquidity below this low in 8 minutes. When this candle closes, if it leaves us this gap here, then really these kind of gaps here are going to be my line in the sand, right? Draw back to these before taking out this, and I still fancy price to move a bit lower, close above these, and then I think price again is ready to have a bit of a rip. So we're going to end up on Doge. Let's see what we're talking about with Doge. We've obviously got some action moving on here. So, okay, as we've covered previously, and again, seen very, very similar with the other alts as well. We look at these on the lower time frames. We did get that inversion. That inversion immediately failed as the other ones did, or not immediately, did hold support here, got some longs out of that, but then closed below. Ultimately, we then target liquidity below this low. Boom, okay, tick in the box. However, we can see this weekly gap is still continuing to hold. However, we've created another bearish gap here. So on a weekly scale, I want to see price close above this and then look to target these equal highs up here. All right, I think for me, that seems like a really, really solid plan. Moving this onto a daily to see what we were looking at here. Well, quite simply, bearish gap, right? Broken record time. What did we do? We closed above it here. And in closing above it, we also created a bullish gap. So we had this layered support. That's what we like to see for confluence, yeah? Violation of this and the one above it. Price retested this as support. And look, we had these marked out from a while ago, right? These equal highs. That's just massive. 1, 2, 3, 4, engineered liquidity. Price pops up above that. And again, you want to see these areas, okay? So if we look at this here, we're saying we have this expansion higher. We're then looking for price to come down and hold a gap, which we didn't have. But, and I'm going to draw this as a box rather than a line here for a reason I'm going to explain. And I'm just going to get rid of that for a second so it's a little bit clearer. Right, this order block here, price goes down and then pumps higher. We then find initial support here. When price again closes below here, we treat it like we would an inversion gap, yeah? And then we simply look for the next key liquidity. And then you want to see how price reacts here. So you get the close below, sells off lower. Well, now we're starting to get back above that level, all right? And you can see how these levels do play a key part. However, I'm a little bit more interested in what we're doing here. We closed above that order block there, and now we've quite quickly kind of got back below it. While we hold this, I'm happy with it. I think we can move higher, but I'm going to really kind of put my attention more onto the 4 hour here, I think, and try and find something with a little bit more clarity. Now, quite simply, not much else on here other than this order block, down close candles, close above this, and then I think we look to move higher to 1, 2, 3 swing highs that we've got there on Doge. So it's quite interesting price action at the moment. Look, higher high, higher low, higher high, lower low, lower high. You know, now if we start to break down below this low here, then I think we could see price, purge a little bit lower. So again, key kind of area to hold here. We just want to see strength above this level. And really, we want to be looking to get our daily close in here. Right, we've got it above this one. So I think we want to say to ourselves, all right, now if we're setting new down close candles here, we're going to see a daily close above this, which is 0.10791. And yeah, we'll absolutely just squeeze that in at the end for you there, Jackie. A quick look at Sol. This is crazy, this, and it just must be a good buy, Sol, right? Look, inversion to the upside. What do? Created this pivot point here, support, price moves up. Looked for this for support. We got it here when it was a bullish gap. Price moved higher, took out these equal highs, broke back down, closed below here and our pivot level, and price ultimately flushed out liquidity below these lows. Now, what we were looking at before, we saw the initial rejection here from our daily gap. We can see now we jump on this chart, we can see that that has indeed inverted and did provide some support for price to move higher. However, it did not hold and price has dipped back down below this. So we invalidate it, simple as that. If it's not relevant to the data now, then it's not relevant. We have this gap here, which is bullish, and price has also come in and swept this low. So now price has done that. What do we want to see? Well, I want to see this bearish gap, which I believe is what's drawing price towards it. I want to see that closed above on a daily scale, and then immediate target is these equal highs. Okay, and then on a 4 hour, if we look at it here, we can see what price is doing. We're in this kind of consolidation. So we want to see something with some form of conviction. Now, we'll have a change in state of delivery here if this candle closes above in 3 minutes, setting an order block. Be cautious though, because we're in the realms of a larger order block here, these 2 down close candles. But this will be an initial sign. We can trade it to liquidity here and here, just to be aware of that. So more one for your intraday traders. I do think really from a safety perspective, investment wise, I'd probably be looking for this to just close above here. And then it's that kind of early stage sign that, look, we've had the sell off. We've now set a higher low. Yeah. And price moving to that higher high. The safest place of all, you know, which is a lot higher up, right? But is this level here. Yeah, because then we've recovered market structure as well and gives ourselves a good base and a good invalidation below there. All right, legends, I kind of rattled on a little bit longer than I meant to, but hopefully it was of use to you all. We had about, I don't know, a lot of people, about 5,000 people live this day, which is just amazing. So big shout out and thank you to every single one of you for joining the show. Really do appreciate you all. Please do remember the link is on the screen. I'm going to share it again here. You don't have to do anything. You can just sign up, come into the Discord. Thousands of people are making the most of it. It's all absolutely free. You get access to our courses, training, the trading teams, our trading calls, a vibrant community of people. Again, all you need to do, all we ask of you is to be respectful of other members, to be respectful of the team when you come in. If you are a twat, we will kick you out. You'll miss the opportunity. Don't waste it for other people, but do absolutely maximize your time there. And whatever we can do to help, we absolutely will. All right. So look, have a fantastic week ahead. Please do trade safe. Be aware of the news. We've got 30 minutes until we get the CPI print. Do keep a look on a chart for that. You'll see what I mean, especially on the low time frames, how that injection of volatility comes in. And it is always a pleasure to see you all. Lots and lots of people in here today, so I can't really do some personal thank yous and that, but you all know who you are. And for everybody that's new as well, thank you all for your time. I look forward to seeing you all around the nest.